multiple senior law enforcement officials have told NBC News that a suspicious package has been found at the Clintons' home in Chappaqua, New York, which is just north of New York City. And I want to bring in Tom Winter. Tom, what can you tell us?
Well, right now, Stephanie, we're still trying to gather a lot of details as far as when this package was found, if it was more than one. The reporting from my colleague Jonathan Dienst is that a suspicious package was found earlier today, and that package, the concern is that package may resemble or be similar to the type of device that was found at George Soros' home just a few days ago, if you remember. So right now they're trying to look at that, ascertain whether or not this is the same type of package, if in fact it was a actual device, or if this is something that's more of a hoax. Now, obviously, the Clintons don't receive mail the way that perhaps you and I do, which is that there are mail screeners, and it isn't something where you can just walk up to their house and put a package in their mailbox or leave it on their doorstep. So, as far as the actual threat to the Clintons themselves, typically it would be limited in something that would be shipped over the mail or a package that would be delivered. With that said, we're really early on as far as trying to get some information on this and trying to get a sense of what we're actually looking at, if in fact it is the same type of device that was found at George Soros' home, and if in fact it was actually did contain explosive powder as that device did. So we're early on in the investigation, but it's something that we're going to continue to track.
All right, thanks, Tom. I want to bring in Pete Williams, who's got a statement now from the Secret Service. Pete, what do you know?
Right. We have a statement from the Secret Service and also have talked to several federal law enforcement officials. So it appears that two packages were sent to former presidents, both the residence of the Clintons in New York and of President Obama here in Washington, D.C. And now the Secret Service has confirmed this in a statement. It says, late on October 23rd, the Secret Service recovered a single package addressed to former First Lady Hillary Clinton in Westchester County, New York. And then early this morning, October 24th, a second package addressed to former President Obama was intercepted by Secret Service personnel in D.C. The packages were immediately identified during routine mail screening procedures as potential explosive devices and were appropriately handled as such. The protectees, meaning the Clintons and the Obamas, did not receive the packages, nor were they at risk of receiving them, and I'll explain why in a moment. And then it says the Secret Service has initiated a full-scope criminal investigation that will involve all the necessary federal, state, and local officials. So the reason that the protectees, as they say in the statement, didn't receive them is that for the White House, of course, for many government buildings here in Washington, but also for former presidents who receive Secret Service protection, the mail doesn't go directly to their houses. It goes to an off-site facility where it's screened for just this very purpose. So for many former federal officials that receive Secret Service protection, it's the same thing. You can't mail something to them directly.
All right, Pete,
and I'm just going to say one other thing. So it does appear, at least initially, that this is similar, and that at least that's the concern, similar to the device that was found at the George Soros house. And so that's one thing that they'll be looking at to figure out if this is the work of the same person.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.